My name's Rima Ahmed. I will be your host for this evening. Thank you ever so much for joining us. As you can probably tell, I'm properly chuffed to be here at the moment because we have an all-female power panel. It's incredible. I'm loving the vibe already. We're here to talk about the brand new show, Hullraisers. It's hitting Channel 4 next week. So let me introduce you to our power panel. I'm going with that. I'm calling it a power panel. I hope everyone's that's what it is. Let's start with our writers and the wonderful Lucy Beaumont who joins us. Give it up for Lucy, everyone. Lucy is originally from Hull and adapted the series from the Israeli show Little Mum, which we will talk about very shortly. We also have the fabulous Anne-Marie O'Connor. Yes, Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie was a co-creator and lead writer on the hit show Trolleyed as well, which was wonderful. We also have the incredible Caroline Moran, who is behind the utterly joyous Raised by Wolves, which if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Have a chat to yourself. Give it up for Caroline, everyone. Whoop, whoop.
Hiya.
And also we have Powerhouse executive producer Hannah Farrell with us. Hello, Hannah.
Yeah.
And then last but certainly not least, repping this stunning cast is Leah Brotherhead. From Hull, also plays Tony in the show. Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome, ladies. How are we all feeling?
Very good.
Excellent. Now, I said I'm chuffed. I'm very, very chuffed and excited because I watched, I was lucky enough to be sent 2 preview episodes to watch before we had this chat. I've watched them both twice. I have inexplicably learnt some dialogue. That's just because I love it so much. I'm obsessed. And I wanted to start at the beginning with this and ask you, Lucy, what is Hullraisers about? Because lots of people who are here listening to us chat have not had the pleasure of seeing it yet.
Well, it's a sitcom. It was originally it was an Israeli sitcom that Fable got the rights to because they became obsessed with the original, and the 3 women, a bit like, you know, how sort of like Sex in the City used to be and things like that. They became friends very quickly. So we adapted it to be Hull, basically. It's set on a street I lived on. It sort of, I think it's still got the sort of spirit of the original, but it's very different, isn't it? And it centres around 3 women, and 2 of them sisters and one of them the best friend. And it's about their day-to-day lives, really, and the relationship between them and between their friends and family.
The one thing that I got from watching it, Lucy, because I knew that it was from this Israeli show, is how Hull it was, like how northern working class it is, but in like a real way, not in like a ale lads and lasses sort of, do you know what I mean? That kind of northern working class.
Yeah, it was like when we knew we'd got that right, we could all sort of relax a bit. I think for everyone involved, and you know, Anne-Marie and Kaz, they knew that I think everybody knew that well. They knew that yes they are, they're working class, but it's sort of, it's not really about that. But they're real, because the real women, it needed to be like that. And I think everyone found it quite refreshing that we could set something, you know, with real people, that it didn't need to be, like you say, Ebar Gum, and it didn't need to be like, you know, living in London in a penthouse when they only earn 15 grand a year, you know. So it was, I do think the success of Derry Girls, I think, had really perhaps given Channel 4 the confidence to go, no, just try and be as honest and reflective of the place as you can.
Yeah, and speaking of getting a real feel of the place and a realistic feel of the place, I mean, Caroline, you when you did Raised by Wolves, I feel like that was probably the first time that we saw people growing up in that side of the world that were not, I mean, they weren't normal. They were quite surreal, those characters. But did you feel a sense of that while writing Hullraisers?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a similar kind of feeling coming from Wolverhampton as there is coming from Hull. They're often places that are kind of the punchlines of jokes. And so, yeah, I felt like the sort of place that is often overlooked, but where actually a lot of very cool people live, and there's a lot of pride and creativity. So yeah, it was great to be able to bring that to screen.
Anne-Marie, you're one of the other writers, and I mean, you're very proudly like Bradford all the way. Do you feel a sense of that as well, that Hull is probably one of those places? Not probably, I've never seen Hull represented in the way that it's been represented in this show.
The thing is, you sort of, the big crossover when Lucy and I first started talking, felt like there was so much crossover between Bradford and Hull, because it's a sort of place that there's so much pride within the city, but actually you go outside of the city and there's, I mean, you know, for Bradford's always like, we're not Leeds, but you know, it's that sort of thing, and you're like, well, but we're proud of being, the city is proud of itself and has its own absolute own identity, and Hull felt very like that to me. And we also had really similar sort of wildly different upbringings, but also similar, but you know, similar backgrounds. And I think we are the only 3 working class female comedy writers in the country. So that's why we're all here. But you know, there isn't a lot of it around, and I know because when I've worked on other shows that are set in a working class environment, you sort of look around and go, can I just check what schools everyone went to? I just need a name. I don't even need to know the area. Just tell me the name of the school. So actually, I'm just really proud to be involved in something that I know is working class from the bones of it upwards.
Yeah, and that is so, it's so reflected in the show that we see. You know, it's not put on at all, which I love. And speaking of the show that we see, Hannah, you are executive producer extraordinaire. Tell us a little bit about how this project came together in the first place.
Well, I think, like Lucy said, we became absolutely obsessed with Little Mum. I think because, you know, those characters are just extraordinary, but also that there are, you know, they exist in a world that feels, you know, really universal in terms of the storylines and what the characters are going through in terms of dating, friendship, parenting, but we wanted to kind of take the heart of that and kind of make something really exciting here that kind of reflected the spirit, but as Lucy said, kind of was ultimately, you know, born and kind of bred in Hull, and kind of, you know, celebrates Hull and those characters feeling as authentic as possible. And I think we wanted to, you know, make something that felt really joyous. You know, that watching these characters kind of love each other, that we could kind of fall in love with along the way, and the capers that they get up to. And also, you know, that universal element of, you know, whether it be parenting or friendship or sisterhood or family, whatever it is, that you know, there's a real celebration of that in our show, and I think that that's what feels important to us, that it's kind of heart and soul, you know, just a little slice of joy.
It genuinely is just a slice of joy, and watching it, it felt like I knew those characters, and like I know Rana, that's my best friend. Paula, I grew up next to. Nima is definitely someone that I'm related to. Tony, oh my goodness, Tony is like, I feel a weird connection to as a human. Leah, for you, I mean, incredible performance, by the way, like just so authentic. What drew you to this role? I mean, apart from the stellar writing, what was it about this that just made you think, I need to do this?
Oh, well, I mean, I think she is just really relatable in that way of being a woman in your 30s, and there's so much kind of societal pressure, this idea of all these things you should have sorted. And Tony is completely feeling that, and is just, but kind of embraces the chaos of it as well. And I think it is just an incredibly relatable feeling. And I think a lot of women will be drawn in by that, I hope. But yeah, I mean, I was just hoping to be in it in any aspect, because I'm from Hull. I was like, surely I can play something in it. But yes, it was just a joy to actually get to play Tony.
Well, that was another part of it. That was another part of it that just felt so right as a viewer going into it and not really knowing much. Is that obviously like I said, the TV show, it's so set in Hull, but being from Hull, did you feel like there was a layer of context that as an actor you didn't have to go in and deep dive into?
I mean, yeah, I guess I was like, oh, great, I don't have to do much research. And also, I mean, it was nice because obviously I've got lots of friends from Hull. I don't have any children myself, but I've got lots of mates from Hull who do have kids. And, you know, there's like a couple of sisters that I know from Hull that I grew up with, and they live like down 2 streets down in Hull that like really remind me of Paula and Tony. So there was just so much stuff that I could draw on like instantly. So it was ace.
Genuinely just a joy to see you and the rest of those actors do their thing. Can we also just talk, I know she's not here, but Shobna Gulati in that role, oh my goodness me, genuinely. I think a moment that really took me out, and for everyone watching, I think it's in episode 2, about halfway through, where she says, give me touch to her. And genuinely, I had to pause because I was on the floor. So good, and she delivers with such aplomb as well. Genuinely, it seems like it was a real joy on the set as well. Leah, was that definitely how it felt?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we've all seen each other since already. We can't get enough of each other. We are like a family.
And you were all bubbled as well, weren't you, because of COVID? So
yeah.
They were living together beforehand. So
yeah, it's always intense anyway. But then the COVID kind of element made it even more intense. And Shobna and Yannick did some particularly good cooking as well.
Right.
So.
Was that all the cast then together in one place?
Yeah, like a lot of us were, kind of, we had our own apartments. We were in the, it was very, very nice. Please can we get another series?
just for the accommodation.
Sometime we'll need to bubble. I do like that.
Yeah.
One of the things that came through so vividly as well, and it's one of the things that really got me, sort of like hit me in the chest a little bit, was the fact that these women that we're watching really like each other, and it's more than like, they really love each other and they really want to support each other and they take each other as they are. Lucy, when you were writing, what was your sort of vision for them? Because I think a lot of the time when we have lots of competing female characters, there's always some drama between them, and I don't feel that in this.
No, they've got, because once you know they love each other, then they can say what they like to each other. But I remember when writing the pilot, and I remember getting like a few scenes in, and Sabina, brilliant editor, who was an exec producer and editor on it, I remember texting her and said, look, I know it seems like they're arguing, but they are arguing. They love each other. I just want you to just understand that this is how they just interact. It's just, they're like Italians.
Because that's what I see, in the Channel 4 interview, they'd ask me about that. And I said, if you're away from them, they look like they're having a row. And you'd be like, oh God, they're proper kicking off over there. And then you get near and you go, oh no, they're having a really nice conversation. Continue.
It might be because you're from Leeds, Rima. You understand that they're not arguing.
Oh, look, I'm having a lovely time.
It might be.
If you were to mute and just me and my friends or my family talking, you would be like, they're about to rip each other apart. But actually, we're just having a right nice time. And that's what I got from watching these women, and that's what feels so authentic about it and so real about it. But also that love, it just shines through, and I think it's such a lovely thing to see.
Yeah, well, they're based on real. They're all real women. They're all they're all based on either one or some are based on like a couple of people, but they're all women who live in that area. I mean, Rana's, I've actually taken the name of Rana, of my friend. She's actually called Rana. I should have called her a different name. She's gonna go mad.
Rana watched any of this? Rana watched any of this, Lucy?
You what, sorry?
She watched any of this?
No, but she's gonna say, I don't know whether I don't know whether she's going to be quite pleased. Because
I'd be pleased.
I think Tazi's like 20 years younger than her, so she might think.
I do love that. I think that was one of the things that, you know, watching as just very, very personally as a, you know, a South Asian northern working class woman, seeing that sort of representation done so subtly and done with so much love and done with, you know, it's not a big deal. Like that is what it is, and that is how women live around each other. That felt really personal in a way, but also very relatable. Caroline and Anne-Marie, when you were writing these characters, did you also take from your sort of friends and your family?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Paula. I mean, when Paula is so like my mum's friend, it just makes me laugh. Like, and it doesn't matter who's writing her. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds like my mum's best friend, and she would say exactly that. But yeah, but you always do anyway. But I think with those characters, with Rana's family, when I spoke to Natalie, who plays Ashley, you know, the daughter, she's from Bradford, and she was saying about like sort of the representation of a mixed family on TV for her, because she's a dad's Pakistani and a mum's white, and she said, I always get cast as Pakistani. I just get cast. That's my, you know, what the roles I always get. And she went, so it's actually to get this role is really unusual. So, but sort of growing up where I grew up, I knew lots of people that, you know, that were just are like the women in Hullraisers. So you just sort of go, oh yes, that person, yeah, they definitely do that. They definitely do that.
It comes across just in such a lovely sort of warm and fuzzy way, but also like, I don't know, there's something about this show that feels so punk. Like I was watching it and just thinking, there's something about this that is different to the things that I've watched before. As writers going into it, and I am really interested in the way that you sort of approach things in terms of the writing process. What's it like working with each other and finding that vibe?
I think it's, the thing is, because we were all brought together during COVID, we didn't get to spend any time together. Very little, wasn't it? It was all on screen or whatever. So it's actually, it was a process that none of us had ever gone through. But actually, I think at the end of it, it was like, oh, actually, that worked really well. And in the past, if you've ever in a writer's room, you can end up for like days and weeks on end going over stuff. And actually, we didn't have to do that. We could kind of reconvene and stuff. So I feel like it worked all right. Did it? Are we all right?
I think we had a lot in common in terms of, I don't know, I felt like I recognised a lot of, in Anne-Marie's writing and in Lucy's writing, there's a lot of stuff, and I was kind of, oh yeah, I recognise that. And it was almost like that sort of relationship was almost established from the beginning, I guess, because we've had life experiences that are quite similar in some ways. So yeah, I feel like, it was like we'd already sort of knew each other a bit before we started working together somehow.
I think the way that it comes across as a viewer, it feels, and also someone that watches so many comedies and sitcoms and this sort of thing, it comes across like such a lovely sort of flowy story that you just are engaged with immediately. One question that I want to ask each of you actually is, in terms of what you're hoping viewers will take away from the series, what is that for you? And I'll start with you, Leah.
Oh gosh, I think it's just that thing of, I really like this series because it's not, oh, it's grim up north. It's like, yes, it can be grim up north, but we still have a good time and we still love each other, and it doesn't have to be nasty. And there's such a strong community spirit in these cities, which are, you know, we're all from. And I think that's the kind of strongest thing that, you know, that you've been saying as well, that I hope we have got across. And I think we really have been successful, hopefully, in achieving that. So yeah, I just think I want people to feel joyful about these somewhat forgotten cities. Yeah, I just want to put Hull on the map.
Yeah,
Along with others.
love to see it. Lucy, what about you?
I mean, I'm from stand up, you know, so for me it's like funny or die, you know. I literally, that's how passionate I am about every 3 lines a gag. I have a real issue with comedy that doesn't make people laugh, and you know, and I think there needs to be like laughometers in people's, I'm like, yeah, but you're not going in people's houses and check like where, you know, get a laughometer. Like if people aren't laughing out loud, you know. So but I think that's because of the background I come from doing probably really awful clubs that I would have never meant, you know, people laugh at anyway. But so for me, it was just so important that it was actually funny. I mean, and I was a nightmare to work with, because I'd rather a story didn't make sense, but they just would said something funny.
We can make them both make sense.
Like,
Definitely make it both make sense.
I don't understand why it needs to make sense.
I love that, though. I love the honesty of that, just wanting it to be funny. I don't think it's got to worry about either, because there were moments, like I said, where I had to pause to laugh because it really got me. Not least there's no spoilers here, but at one point a character removes her bra to eat a meal. And there was something about that got me in a way that I can't, like, genuinely tears in my eyes. I'd never seen that before, just being like, all right, I'm just gonna take this off and get going. Yeah, it's funny. Don't worry about that, Lucy. Caroline, how about you?
I'm with Lucy. Ultimately, I'm a gag writer, so if people find it funny and they have a good time watching it, then I've done my job and I'm delighted.
Hannah?
I don't know, obviously I'm biased. I just adore our little show, and I want people to, as I said at the beginning, kind of feel that joy from it, take something like really heartwarming and life affirming and joyous, and just have a really good laugh and want to come back again and again to see our brilliant cast and brilliant writing, and just have a really good time with it. I think that's the aim.
Yeah. And finally, Anne-Marie.
Well, I just want people to obviously laugh, but also see themselves in it. I think one of the things that I thought was really nice was when the trailer went out last week, people were just tagging the mates in it.
Yeah,
this is you, this is you, this is you, this is you, this is us, we've got to watch this. And I thought, if people can see themselves in it, that's brilliant, because you can write, you know, highfalutin comedy. I think it's ace and everything, but I just want to be able to write something where I'm like, oh God, I did that. And what's really good is we've got no pressure, because we're going out after a really small show called Derry Girls. But you know, that sort, you want people to see themselves in it and love it, and for it to be warm and fun. And
I think what you're all wanting from it is genuinely things that I felt while watching both times. We are going to go to some Q&A questions now. If you are joining us, you can of course go to the Q&A down at the bottom of your screen, type in a little question and I will throw it out to our panel. I'll start here with, let's have a look. Callum, who's joined us. Thank you, Callum, for this question. And I'll throw it out, and whoever wants to answer this question can. Callum asks, if you were to be given the opportunity to do this all over again, is there something you'd change about the overall outcome?
Good question. Who wants to answer that one?
The outcome.
He says he personally feels the formula is just right. Is there anything that during the course of making this that you thought, oh, well, maybe we should have done it this way, or no, not at all, no regrets?
I mean, it would always be great if COVID didn't exist, but
I was just about to say that. Can we do it again, but without COVID? That would be our big thing, I think.
Yeah,
would have made them. Yeah, that's been everything, hasn't it? That yeah.
So they'd make it in a different dimension then, Callum. Not
Yeah, not
parallel
in
universe, yeah.
Lisa, thank you so much, Lisa. Lisa asks, how do you think the people of Hull will feel about the series? I'm going to throw this to the people who are actually from Hull.
Yeah, do that.
Go on, Lucy.
Hey, well, me and Leah both know people from Hull. We know what people Hull are like. They'll
tell us.
They'll want to hate it, but they'll end up like love. I think. I think most people. Well, I've already talked about this to a few people because there's a lot on socials and stuff. It's really interesting. The only people that are sort of saying, "Oh, that street's not in Hull," and "Oh, that accent's not," are middle-aged men, and it's like quite nice because it's like, "Oh, it's not for you, this show anyway." It's like because I started going, "Oh no, there's not," I was like, "Oh no, it's like there's no way you can make a TV show 100%. No one would want to watch 100% Hull. It would be horrific." Be absolutely horrific if you really captured Hull, like the fights outside the drag clubs and like people just sitting eating pasties for like 4 hours. Like it was, do you know what I mean? Like really, but I think there's a really young vibe and like I mean I'm nearly 40, so I'm really pleased they've managed to get a young vibe with it. Because I was saying the other show I do is only watched by white men in the 50s, so I'm really pleased to be a part of something that's got like an energy, So I think I'm hoping people love it. I'm really hoping that they love it because we could have gone like. Oh, it could have been awful. It could have been, you know what I mean? It could have been like shame. It could have been like, hey, bye, lads.
Yeah.
And we haven't. I've really wanted. There was a couple of like comments I've really wanted to say. Do you know what? If you can't see that this is a female-centered show with a female lead, and one of the writers is a Hull writer, and it's all 3 female writers. It's a female production. If you can't see how amazing that is, then it's not the show for you anyway. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, I think, sorry, it's a really long-winded way of saying, I think overall, people will love it. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Hull is full of surprises. I mean, my favourite heckle when we were filming down Newland Ave was when someone just shouted out, "Filming pedos." I don't know how you respond to that. I don't know what it means.
Oh shit, they're on to us.
Like there's something about that is so like, I don't know why, but immediately I just want to go, aw.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for that answer. Andy gets in touch. Hello, Andy. He says, I'm lucky enough to have watched the 2 preview episodes. I know, right? It does feel like a very lucky thing. Says, you managed to get my adult child to stop doing whatever he was doing as he could overhear the dialogue. Were there any scenes that you had to remove as they were too risque?
Ooh. I don't know if we ever had like big scenes that felt too risky, did we? That we felt like we had to. there was a few things for various reasons that some jokes maybe got massaged out, but not big scenes. I mean, you guys should answer that question, I guess, rather than me.
No, I don't think so.
I think we went to the places we sort of felt like we should and could go. That's how I felt about the places that felt, if it felt authentic to our characters, we'd definitely go there.
Yeah, I wrote about an upside down vagina for a year, and that eventually went. That eventually didn't stay in.
There are moments though, it just in terms of risky stuff, as I was watching that like so the second episode, again, no spoilers, but it does sort of focus a little bit on Leah's character Tony being ever so slightly horny and just needing to find time to fit that into a schedule, and I thought that was so well done in terms of the story, but it never once felt like, oh, that's not really how it happens, which I think is a really lovely thing, actually, and a really thing that makes people giggle a little bit. Like you have a little giggle along. Thank you for that. Let's have a look. Jean gets in touch. Hi, Jean. She says, how do you anticipate the humour translating across the classes and the north-south divide? Is it something that you hesitate on while writing, or do you think, what the hell?
Nah, just gotta, I mean, budge up. There's enough posh comedy in there.
For all of us.
Also, we can subtitle it. It's fine. They'll understand. I think it'll translate. I mean,
like Derry Girls is so specific, isn't it? And I think like friendships and relationships is just, and kids, and that's just totally universal, isn't it?
Yeah, the mothering thing is really strong, isn't it? It was the thing that was important about the original Little Mom. There was the storylines were so universal because it was just real things, real stories that had happened to them all, and we've got similar, haven't we? We've got so yeah, that's universal, isn't it?
I think we kind of shared a lot of friendship stories, parenting stories, all sorts of stories that have either made it in or not kind of made it in, but I feel like I'm the only Southern voice on the call. It makes me laugh. And yeah, I think the most important thing is that the characters and the storylines feel universal. They do to me anyway.
No, they totally do, and I think you're right. The specifics of the wholeness of it are things that, even if you don't fully understand what that word is or what that saying is, like that's part of the uniqueness of it. It's part of the magic, isn't it? At the end of the day. Let's have a look. We have some other questions about Hull. Actually, lots of people asking about Hull. We'll get a couple more in, and then we'll call it a day. This one's from Alex. He says the show is so brilliantly Hull. How did you find the balance of putting in enough Hull references? And were there any references that Lucy and Leah maybe you had to explain to anyone else at any point?
I think when we did the script reading, I think quite a few people didn't have a clue what we were talking about when we were on about bread cakes.
Oh yeah.
Terry just thought it was cakes.
Yeah, that was still going on set. It's a bread roll.
Yeah, there was a lot of things I think that not only are the Hull that they've just said in my family. There was a few times with Sabina, she'd be like, I don't know what this means, and then I'd have to check, and no one else in Hull.
Lucy, do you remember Lucy brought me a whole slang guide quite early on to refer back to? That was really useful.
Had you written that yourself, Lucy? Is that available in your bookstore?
Yeah, it's the thing. Yeah.
I love that. Final question then. Again, anyone jump in. this is a question from Lisa saying, Channel 4 are commissioning some great comedy from women at the moment. We're talking Catastrophe, Derry Girls, This Way Up, all amazing shows. Do you think other channels are missing a trick?
Yeah. I think the answer's got to be yeah to that. I mean, no, the BBC obviously do commission really well, but I think that, but Channel 4's always been the holy grail for comedy. It's not like, it just is. I'm not being a big bum kiss. It's like, if you're a comedy writer, you want to write on Channel 4, don't you? Because like when I was growing up, that's where all the brilliant sort of edgy comedy is, and you're allowed to say things and be funny. You know, it's not as censored as other places might be. So yeah, yeah, they're missing a trick.
Straight in there, infinitely.
I'll never work anywhere again now.
You've just been blacklisted.
It's such a blast, honestly. It's such a pleasure to talk to you about this thing that I can't wait to come out. If you're watching and you wanting to put this down in your diary, do Hullraisers. It will begin on Tuesday the 12th of April, that's next week, at 9:45 p.m. on Channel 4. Also, all the episodes will be available on All 4 After as well. And if you're a journalist here, just to let you know, there's no embargo on any of this Q&A. Feel free to go and write away. If you're not a journalist, go tweet away.
Apart from when I said if we really wrote about we can make sure. Now what I meant is it's got a young vibe to the show. I would watch people eating pasties in Hull for 4 hours.
That's series 2, isn't it?
I think that's true. Thank you so much to the panel. Thank you so much again. The wonderful Lucy Beaumont, the fabulous Anne-Marie O'Connor, the incredible Caroline Moran as well, powerhouse executive producer as ever, Hannah Farrell, and just repping the cast for us here, looking very pretty in pink, Leah Brotherhead as well. Thank you so much, ladies.